The following podcast is a work of fiction, a deception, a cascade of lies for your ears. Do you like being lied to? Well, enjoy your audio farce, weirdo.
Hello, curious minds, and welcome back to A Beginner's Guide to the Occult, the podcast that aims to teach you everything you need to know to stay safe in this dark and mysterious world. I'm your host, Rebecca Morgan, and today I am joined by our first ever guest, fellow supernatural investigator, Candye Byrnes.
Hello, everyone. Rebecca, thanks for having me.
No problem. So today I thought it might be interesting to talk to another investigator because, everyone does things differently, and I think trying different methods and considering different perspectives is usually a positive thing. So, Candice, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't consider myself an investigator. I think that's a very constrictive term. I'm more of a supernatural experiencer.
Okay. So, what does that involve?
Well, Becky, can I call you Becky?
I'd rather you
Becky,
didn't.
when we experience a connection to otherworldly forces, it can be very powerful, life-changing even. These experiences are a gift. To investigate a gift seems wrong, don't you think?
Well, That's a very interesting take. So what are your methods?
I seek out these otherworldly experiences, usually by trying out specific rituals or going to energized locations. When I do this, I make sure I'm in a mental state of heightened awareness. Then, if I'm gifted with an experience, once that experience is complete, I record the event in my journal so that I can then disseminate this information to my followers.
Huh. That sounds pretty similar to one of my investigations.
Does it?
Yeah.
That's wonderful! Your methods must be more advanced than I first realized, Becky.
Okay, then. So, how did you first become aware of the supernatural, Candice?
Well, the supernatural has always been a big part of my life. Ever since I was a little girl, my mother would tell me stories of her own experiences with the spirit world. She'd show me her star chart, help me perform simple spells, and every day she'd read me my horoscope.
Wow. It must have been so nice growing up in such an understanding environment.
Well, it's a blessing and a curse. I was horribly bullied at school for many years. Until one day I decided to offer to read the palms of all the popular girls at my school. They were skeptical at first, but once I told them they were all going to be supermodels and movie stars, they warmed right up to me.
That's a good trick.
Yeah, I thought so. Oh, but I don't make a habit of lying about these things. I'm normally very truthful. These were extenuating circumstances.
Oh, absolutely. I understand.
What about you, Becky? How did you get started along this mystical path?
I met a ghost in a McDonald's playground.
Oh.
So, Candice, can you tell us about one of your most recent experiences? I'm sure my listeners would love to hear about it.
Absolutely. I recently held a seance with a small group of my followers that was very enlightening.
I love a good seance.
Don't we all?
Oh, for those of you unfamiliar with the term, a seance is a ritual where a group of people attempt to communicate with the dead, usually with the help of a medium.
Have you not covered seances yet, Becky?
Well, no. But this is only episode 13. I've got a seance episode planned for a few weeks from now.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure people were familiar with the more common threats before they go about trying to contact spirits.
You mean the type of threat you might encounter at your local McDonald's?
Yes, exactly.
So, high cholesterol?
I think we've gone on a bit of a tangent here. Let's get back to the seance.
So, I started out by selecting a group of my followers to join me in this experience. I would have taken them all if I could have, but trying to form a seance circle with thousands of people would have been pretty unmanageable.
I'm sorry, did you just say thousands of people?
Yes. Why?
No reason. I have listeners. Please continue.
So I selected this group by holding a little competition to see who could spread my most recent Instagram post to the most people.
how would you even track something like that?
Oh, I can get a pretty good sense of where the likes come from, Becky. I meditated on the issue, and once I left my trance state, I had the names of the 5 lucky people who would join me on this experience. I sent them all the addresses of the estate where the seance would be held. A charming little bed and breakfast that happens to belong to a good friend of mine. The group all booked accommodation and met me there. We set up in the dining hall just after midnight, the curtains thrown open to let the light of the full moon fill the space. Candles were lit. Incense also lit. And each of us was wearing a Candye Byrnes branded crystal amulet, which increases the wearer's receptiveness to supernatural activity by as much as 70% for the low price of just $59.99. See CandyeByrnes.com for further details. That's CANDY.
I'll put a link in the description. What happened next?
Well, we joined hands, closed our eyes, and waited for the veil between worlds to open and connect us with a spirit.
Was there a particular spirit you were trying to contact? One of your followers' relatives, or maybe someone who died in the dining hall?
No, I don't like to limit myself that way, Becky. We were open to communication from any spirit who wished to speak with us.
Then why did you choose that location?
Well, we had to hold the seance somewhere, didn't we? Besides, the view from the lake from the north-facing rooms is incredible. And if you tasted the creme brulee, well, you wouldn't be asking so many questions, believe me.
Right.
After a few minutes without response, I could tell the others were starting to lose hope. A loss of hope is poison to a seance. Why would a spirit want to speak to a pessimist? So eyes still closed, hands still linked. I delivered a rousing speech on the nature of the hidden world behind our own. My intent was to inspire my followers, but there must have been a spirit listening in who felt moved by my words. As I spoke, the windows rattled, the candles flickered out, and several chairs toppled to the ground.
And?
And?
What happened next?
We opened our eyes and turned the lights back on.
That's it?
Well, we followed up with a deep discussion about the experience that carried on into the early hours of the morning. It's important to take time to process a successful experience like this one.
This was a success to you?
Of course. We were touched by the supernatural. Our lives forever changed. It was deeply moving.
Oh. All right then.
What?
Nothing. I'm just reassessing some opinions on some things. Thank you for coming onto the show, Candice. This was really enlightening.
The pleasure is all mine.
And thank you, listeners. I hope you learnt a little something today. I know I have. Stay safe out there, and don't forget to tune in next week for more spooky shit.
Yes, and don't forget to check out my blog, The Candye Byrnes Paranormal Journal. That's Candy.
Yes, I'll put links in the places. Bye, everyone. Hey folks, thanks for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, you can support it on Patreon. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Rachel Fukar. The voice of Candye Byrnes was the spectacular Angela Lita Kay. You can follow her on Twitter and Instagram at Angela_Lita Kay. That's LETAKAYE. She also does a D&D podcast called There Be Dragons, where she's not nearly as insufferable as she was in this. So check that out if it's your thing. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next week.